Every single day you walk down the same aisles, past the same shelves, reaching for the same trusted names without ever stopping to ask what's actually inside those familiar packages. And today we're going to pull back the curtain on some of the most popular brands in the world to show you exactly what the marketing doesn't want you to notice, starting with something as basic as bread, because that soft, fluffy loaf sitting in your pantry right now was very likely built not just from flour, water, and yeast, but from a long list of dough conditioners, preservatives, and bleaching agents designed less for nutrition and more for shelf life and texture. With many mass-produced loaves relying on additives that have been quietly phased out in other countries due to health concerns, which raises the uncomfortable question of why the same company would sell a different, cleaner version of its product overseas while keeping the less scrutinized formula here at home. And if that unsettles you, wait until we talk about breakfast, because the cereal boxes lining your kitchen shelf, often decorated with cartoon mascots and bold claims like whole grain or heart healthy, frequently contain more added sugar per serving than a dessert, with some of the most popular children's cereals packing in the sugar equivalent of eating a small candy bar before you've even left the house. And the whole grain claim on the front of the box can be technically true, while the grain itself sits far down the ingredient list behind refined flour, meaning the healthy-sounding label is doing a lot more work than the actual nutrition inside. And this pattern of the label saying one thing while the product quietly does another shows up again and again once you start looking, nowhere more strikingly than with olive oil, one of the most counterfeited food products on the planet, where bottles proudly stamped extra virgin, cold-pressed, and imported from Italy have, in independent testing over the years, turned out in a significant number of cases to be diluted with cheaper, refined oils, mislabeled in origin, or simply not meeting the chemical standards required to legally be called extra virgin in the first place, which means that bottle you're paying a premium for because you believe you're getting a pure product may, in reality, be a blend engineered to pass a taste test, but not a lab test. And speaking of things that look pure but aren't, bottled water might be the single greatest marketing triumph in the history of consumer goods, because a shocking share of bottled water sold today is not sourced from pristine mountain springs at all, but is simply filtered municipal tap water, run through reverse osmosis, and repackaged with a name and a mountain on the label, designed to make you feel like you're paying for something special. And beyond the sourcing question, there's now a growing body of research finding microplastic particles inside bottled water at levels significantly higher than what's typically found in tap water, meaning the very packaging meant to make water feel safer and purer may actually be introducing contamination that a glass from your own kitchen faucet wouldn't have. And if we're talking about what companies choose not to advertise, cooking oil deserves its own spotlight because for decades, certain vegetable and seed oils were marketed as the heart-healthy alternative to butter and animal fats. Yet a growing number of doctors and researchers have become far more cautious about recommending some of these highly processed oils, pointing to the aggressive, high-heat chemical extraction methods used to produce them and the resulting oxidative byproducts that form when these oils are used in high-heat cooking, or WORS, reused repeatedly in commercial fryers, which means the healthy oil frying your favorite fast food may be doing something quite different to your body than the packaging implies. And that brings us to fast food itself, an industry built on speed and consistency, where the supply chains behind your favorite drive-through meal are far more industrial and far less transparent than the warm lighting and friendly mascots suggest, with meat, produce, and dairy often passing through multiple processing facilities, additive treatments, and preservation steps before ever reaching the restaurant, all engineered not around nutrition, but around a single goal, making sure a burger in one city tastes identical to a burger 3,000 miles away, which requires a level of chemical and industrial standardization that most customers never think about while they're waiting at the counter. And when people try to escape this system by reaching for organic alternatives, they often assume they've stepped into an entirely different, more honest world. But the truth about organic labeling is far messier than most shoppers realize, because organic is a legal certification with specific rules, not a guarantee of a small farm or a wholesome process, and many of the biggest organic brands on grocery shelves today are actually owned by the same massive conglomerates that produce conventional processed food, meaning your organic cookie or organic snack bar might still be highly processed, might still contain approved synthetic additives, and is very likely manufactured in the same type of industrial facility as its non-organic counterpart, UST, with a higher price tag attached to the word organic itself. And that price tag brings us to something every single shopper has felt but rarely stops to analyze: the grocery store tricks quietly costing you money every time you walk through the door, from eye-level shelf placement reserved for the most profitable brands, to sales on items that were quietly marked up before being marked back down to their original price, to the well-documented practice of shrinkflation, where package sizes slowly shrink while the price stays the same or even increases, meaning you're paying more per ounce for a product that looks unchanged on the outside, but delivers noticeably less on the inside. A strategy so widespread that researchers now track it as its own economic trend. And finally, for anyone trying to eat healthier and turning to supplements to fill the gap, the protein powder industry has its own set of hidden truths, because independent lab testing of popular protein powders has repeatedly found products with significantly less actual protein than the label claims, along with, in some cases, heavy metals like lead and cadmium at levels higher than health guidelines recommend, plus a long list of added sugars, artificial flavors, and thickening agents in products marketed specifically around the idea of being clean, simple, and healthy, meaning the very shake you're drinking to improve your health could be quietly undermining it in ways the label was never designed to reveal. And once you step back and look at everything we've covered today, from the bread in your pantry, to the water in your fridge, to the oil in your pan, to the cereal in your bowl, to the organic label on your snack, and the protein powder in your gym bag, a clear pattern starts to emerge. Not necessarily one of a single evil conspiracy, but of an industry-wide incentive structure where marketing budgets are consistently larger than transparency budgets, where the legal definition of a word like natural, or healthy, or organic, is often far weaker than the emotional weight that word carries with consumers, and where the burden of figuring out what's actually inside a product has quietly been shifted from the manufacturer onto you, the shopper, standing in the aisle with 30 seconds to make a decision. And the goal of a video like this was never to tell you to panic or to throw out everything in your kitchen, but to hand you back a small piece of the information advantage that these companies have held for decades. Because once you know that a label is a marketing document first and an ingredient disclosure second, you start reading it differently. You start asking where a product actually comes from instead of where the packaging implies it comes from. You start comparing ingredient lists instead of front-of-box buzzwords. And that single shift in habit, multiplied across every trip to the grocery store for the rest of your life, adds up to real money saved and real control regained over what you and your family are actually putting into your bodies. So if this opened your eyes, even a little, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives into the brands and industries shaping your everyday life, and drop a comment letting us know which one of these hidden truths surprised you the most. Because the truth is out there, it's just usually printed in a font too small for the marketing team to want you to read. If you'd like, I can also break this into a version with natural pause markers for voiceover pacing, or tighten, loosen it to hit an exact runtime once you know your reading speed.